Hello from Chicago on a beautiful, very warm summer early evening, which I love so much. Oh, so happy it's warm. Okay, so I'm recording on my computer right now. I don't know if you could tell a difference with how you're seeing it, but my phone is dying. Got to get a new one. So I'm using my computer. So I just want to let you know that. So hopefully it's gonna work out. Um, so I'm not cooking right now. What I am doing is drinking a beer, a nice light beer, out of a sake cup, right? Beer out of a sake cup. That's kind of funny. And I just want to tell you about a road trip that I took not too long ago. That has something to do with food, right? Because I don't want this just to be me cooking. Like I'm actually not like the best cook. It's not something I am doing all the time. But what? Hi, honey. Sorry, that was my cat. But what I do all the time is feed myself very well, right? So either in the kitchen or on the road, I'm feeding myself very well, which I did on this road trip, and which I'm going to tell you about. I'm not going to tell you about everything about this journey because you're not going to find everything interesting. It'll take too long, and that's not the point of me sharing this with you. However, all the stories are very interesting and amusing. I just want to let you know that. So my friend is going to an art residency in Maine this summer. So she's taking her car and she was driving and she didn't want to go by herself. So she asked me if I wanted to go. And of course I want to go because I love road trips so much. And I'm always the driver. I drove the whole time. From here to Portland, Maine, that's where I got dropped off. I just drove. I love driving. I'm a little bit of a control freak with it. I don't trust everybody behind the wheel. I trust the friend I was with, but really, I just love driving. It's not a bother, so I'm digressing. Sorry about this. So here we go. So really, the food stories are very interesting towards the end of the story, right? When we get to the East Coast, and my friend and I are both East Coast folks. I'm from Connecticut. So, and when you're from Connecticut, all those states are so small. It's just very easy just to pop all around, so lots of seafood. So this is what we're very excited about. But there's some other food stories in the middle of our journey, which I'll tell you about. So, the first part is quite boring. We did Wednesday to Saturday. And the first night was really just to get us out of Chicago and get us through Indiana and Ohio as quickly as possible. Sorry, Indiana and Ohio. No offense. But we don't really want to hang out in your states. So really, we just drove about 7 hours, and we had a hotel right on Lake Erie, which actually is very lovely. I live on Lake Michigan, being in Chicago, so we were doing a little lake hopping, and literally the hotel was just right next to it. So that was really nice. There was a pool and jacuzzi. Score. That's always fun. And we had a martini and a burger for dinner, which at many other places would be fabulous, right? Just depends on the quality. But it was mediocre, and we didn't expect it to be anything but mediocre. But it did hit the spot. But we were driving for about 7 hours, so at that point, anything will taste really good. So that's the first night. Not very interesting. But the second day, we drove from, and this is Erie, Pennsylvania we were in. And it's funny because Pennsylvania, if any of you have been to Pennsylvania, is a very eerie state. Something about Pennsylvania, it like glazes the state with this kind of like eeriness, this hauntedness. It's very peculiar. It's very peculiar. Anyway, Erie, Pennsylvania. So the second day was Erie, Pennsylvania to Manchester, Vermont, which happens to be in a region of Vermont, southern Vermont, called the Shires. We have an area called the Shires in this country, which is awesome and fascinating. And I, who sort of identifies as a hobbit for reasons I'm not getting into right now, being in the Shires it feels like home. It's perfect. So, and the thing about Manchester, everywhere in the Northeast, in all those states, there's a freaking Manchester. There's a Manchester, I feel like, New York, Manchester, Vermont, Manchester, New Hampshire. I think there's a Manchester, Maine. So that's just a side note right there. So anyway, Manchester, Vermont. So in the middle of our journey, I wanted to take us through the Finger Lakes region. And while we were driving, we wanted to look up a little of the folklore. And I don't really remember all that we looked up because I was driving and just focusing on that, being very safe. But what was one thing we read? Of course, there's always this religious kind of thing, right? Where God put his hand on that part of the country, kind of like this sort of motion, did like a little, kind of like, I don't know, wolf kind of motion, onto the land and created these lakes, right? Because they're very long and they go straight down. However, there's 11 lakes in that area. We only have 10 fingers, so I don't know if God's having some weird kind of finger situation, but that's the little religious something or other. But then with the glaciers, there's this whole kind of story, obvious, true story about how the glaciers receded. I'm not going to go into it, obviously. I'm not very articulate. Hi, honey. Because I wasn't really listening. But Finger Lake's very interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of cool folklore about it. Anyway, moving on. We went to this little town. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it begins with S-K-E-A something, something, something. It's a long word. S-K-E-A, da-da-da. And it's one of the most eastern of the Finger Lakes. And there's a place there called Doug's Fish Fry. And so, and side note, let me tell you, every time I take a trip, road trip, or if I'm just traveling to one particular place, I make these Google Maps, and they're mostly food heavy, but there's sites and, all these other things that I love to do when I'm traveling, but because I love to eat, that's sort of the first travel impulses. Where do I want to go? What kind of food does the place have? So I've done one for LA, I've done one for Berlin, and I've done one for many other places. And I'm going to share it sooner or later with you all if you find it interesting. I think they're great maps. But it's a great visual way of just seeing the place you're traveling to, or throughout if you're going on a road journey, and then it just like pins all these places for you. And I'm not like, I don't have this agenda that I follow, right? Like just because I'm researching all these things, put it in my map. I don't have to go to all these things, right? But they're there as a resource, right? So if I want to follow the map, I will, and if I don't want to look at it, I don't have to, but it's there if I need it. So of course my friend and I were really into it. I geeked out, created this awesome map for our journey, Chicago to Portland, Maine, and then I put Doug's Fish Fry. I'm back on the story point on there. So Doug's Fish Fry is a mom and pop place. It's been there for like 60 years or something, and it's pretty much almost right on the lake. So beautiful setting, vacation kind of setting, and their white fish. I mean, they have many things on the menu, but we just wanted their fried fish sandwich, right? And the fish is coming from the lake. That's all we want, right? So we park, we go in. It looks great, super casual. We get 2 fried fish sandwiches, and these are huge pieces of fish. They don't put 1, but 2 pieces of like fried fish on a non-toasted sesame seed bun, which to be honest, I couldn't imagine it on anything else, right? Like in general, a non-toasted sesame seed bun is nothing to rave about, right? However, when you pair it with fried fish, it's excellent. It's perfect. So, and that's it. There's no tartar sauce on it. I mean, the condiments are off to the side if you want, but they put nothing on it. That's it. So it's French fries, coleslaw, fried fish sandwich. I got a Dr. Pepper. I never drink soda. Only a few times a year. Not really into. I just drink water usually. Well, and beer out of a sake cup. But the Dr. Pepper was perfect with it. Anyway, the sandwich was amazing. It's like everything you want. It was no frills, straightforward, fresh white fish, bam. And then we took a little walk along the lake. Absolutely gorgeous. Got back in the car, off to Manchester, Vermont. Okay, moving along. This might take a little bit. So the reason why I want to go to Manchester is there is a scenic byway, right? Whenever I do a road journey, I try to figure out where are the scenic byways. I like a little atmosphere when I'm driving. I don't really like to go on highways. I like to get off the highway. I like a beautiful landscape. So southern part of Vermont, Manchester, if you take the scenic byway 7, Route 7 all the way up, I'm sorry, you'll start at Bennington. It's like now this is like a travel channel about Vermont. Bennington begins the Route 7 of the byway, and then it ends at Manchester, which is just up north. So Bennington, 3 covered bridges later, Mount Equinox, gorgeous landscape, like perfect Vermont landscape, like this feminine landscape. perfect rolling mountains, right? Not even hills. These gorgeous layered rolling mountains. The sun was sort of setting. It was perfect. We put Pink Floyd on and just had a blast. Anyway, driving up in Manchester. Again, nothing too special. Really, the food kind of comes, I guess, a little later. Although Doug's Fish Fry was the first of many seafood moments we had, and this journey was pretty much about seafood. We went to an Irish bar, though, in Manchester called Mulligan's. And I didn't actually think there was going to be much to it. Like, we actually arrived kind of late. We were staying in the cutest place. And, of course, was so hungry. And there's a lot of, it's a little ritzy-titsy town, Manchester. It doesn't look like it. It looks very casual, but it's a destination point, I think, for summer travelers and stuff like this. You could do a lot of outdoor adventure things. So we didn't want to spend a lot of money. So we went to Mulligan's. And it was so fun. It was such a great place. There was a dining area, but then there was a bar area, and it's just the aesthetic of the whole place was wacky. Along the bar were these little desk lamps, and there was a little boxing kind of area, you know, like floor with the rings, and that's where it was a little dance floor, but they had tables there at the moment for people to eat dinner because they weren't having a dance party at the moment. So anyway, there's all these different kind of features everywhere, but we shared a lot of food. We had an asparagus lobster quesadilla. That was on a flour tortilla, and they put some shredded cheese down in the pan and then put the tortilla on it, so then the cheese got all brown and crispy on it. And I have to tell you, it was really good. I didn't taste the lobster too much, but it all was sort of like mushed in there, all different flavors, swimming together. Ah, so delicious. And then I had some New England clam chowder, which was very good. So I do suggest Mulligan's. Their menu is huge. Like, there was ramen on the menu, Korean fried wings, and all these other kind of ethnic cuisines, and then a kind of classic Irish pub sort of menu. So it was all different things. I didn't expect that. Our waitress was amazing. She lives in New York, which was just a half hour away from Manchester, Vermont. She has a farm. She was telling us about her farm. It was just a very friendly place. I loved it. So anyway, that's that story. So now we're off to the next day. And this is where really, I could have started this whole thing at this point, but I wanted to start from the beginning in Chicago. So Manchester, Vermont to Portland, Maine. My friend spins wool. I mean, she does many things, but she spins wool, and she wanted to stop at a farm. So I researched this farm, pinned it onto my Google map. It was in New Hampshire. So we drove from Manchester, Vermont to this place in New Hampshire to go to this farm so she could buy hand-dyed wool roving. And the best part of that was our Google Maps took us on all these just big routes, so no highways at this point. So the drive was so pleasant. Oh, it was so nice, and it's great to get out of the city. It's so great to get out of the city. It was such a beautiful drive. I love road trips, if I didn't tell you already. So we did not stop anywhere at that point, but we were stopping at a lunch place that I researched and a lot of people recommended. So after we went to the farm, now we're in New Hampshire. It was right close to the border in Maine. We stopped at a place called Bob's Clam Shack. And this place reminded me of a lot of places in Connecticut I grew up in. Like there's Lenny and Joe's, which is right outside New Haven. It's just a seafood shack, which makes it sound like it's affordable, but they're never affordable, right, anymore. They're also expensive. Worth it, but pricey. But anyway, we went to Bob's Fish Shack. It was off of Route 1, and it's packed, but the line moves really quick, and I was absolutely overwhelmed. The menu is huge, and I was so excited, and I just was very overwhelmed, which I get a lot of the time when I go out and eat. Because I love food so much, I just get really overwhelmed. But let me tell you, let me just side note for a second. So it was the friend I was taking this journey with, it was her birthday, well, soon to be her birthday. So I made her this coupon for a free lobster roll, right? Because we were going to have all these lobster rolls. And do I know where I'm going with this? Okay, this is where I would pause the video because I wanted to say something, but I don't want to tell you now. So, okay, rewind. When my friend and I are going on this on road trips, wherever we come to a rest stop, we like to get a few things. So fake tattoos, like those little quarter things. Sometimes we get fake tattoos. Sometimes we just get these little odd little gifts that are in those little plastic capsules. And we also get scratchies. Love, love scratchies. Never win, but love scratchies. So back to Manchester, Vermont, because it was Manchester to Portland, Maine. We stop at a gas station. My friend gets some scratchies. She has one, I have one. We just spent $1 on them each. And guess what? $20 later, I won $20. Freaked out. Took a picture with it. $20. And we decided this $20 is going to go towards our seafood roll fund, right? Because we know we're going to have a lot of lobster rolls or clam rolls, or whatever you want to call them, all different things. And so that money is going to go to that kind of piggy bank. So when back to now Bob's Clam Shack, we used the $20 to pay a portion, because it's kind of expensive, towards the whole. All right, I'm sorry, that didn't make a very good story. All I'm going to say is I told the person at the counter about the scratchy and the $20. I was so excited, A, because I was at this big seafood shack, B, still excited because I won $20 from the scratchy. The guy wasn't too impressed, but I didn't even matter. I didn't even care. So anyway, moving along, sorry. I got a full clam, fried clam roll. So, and my friend got a clam strip roll. Nothing wrong with a clam strip roll. Eat your clam strips. But what I will tell you is this, very seriously, eating a full clam with those bellies is so much better. Those bellies have a very peculiar, slightly funky taste. Nothing terrible, not incredibly funky, but it just something about, it's like a tang about it. It is so delicious. Please, please, whenever you're eating a fried clam roll, and the roll is just one of those, you'll find these a lot. If you get a lobster roll, whatever, it's like a hot dog roll, but it's shaved on the sides and grilled. These are classic rolls. Classic rolls. Absolutely delicious. So it was a fried clam in the roll. That's all it was. Full clams with their bellies. Shit, it was so good. Fries, very good fries, and coleslaw, right? It's just like the trio. That's all you need in life. Not really, but coleslaw, French fries, and then I had my fried clam roll. Oh my God, it was so good. It was so good. And it brought me back to my childhood. I haven't had clam bellies for like more than 2 decades. Oh, it means so much. It was so delicious. So anyway, we ate our seafood rolls and then off to Portland, Maine. Going. I'm just going to speed along now because there's many other things I could talk about with Portland, Maine. We were there for not even 24 hours. But I did some research, right? So I do this thing. When I travel, I create my Google map, and then I have these different things I do for research. One is I go on Facebook, and I just ask people, have you been to this place? Where should I go? What should I eat, right? And I have a wonderful community of people who know, great taste, and they suggest a lot of things. So that's one thing I do. Another thing, I go online, and I check out Mr. Anthony Bourdain. Where did he eat? What is he doing? I check out eater.com, I check out Serious Eats, I check out I have a slew of websites I check out, forums, and where I gather information. So with all that said, and remember, there was so much in Portland I wanted to eat, but we were there for a very short amount of time, and this was the end of our road trip, and your eating habits are a little different, right? You're not as hungry, you're kind of tired, all this kind of stuff. So I didn't eat as much as I can, and I can eat a lot, trust me. We went to one place called Jay's Oysters, which is I'm sure quite famous place. You see it, pop up on any kind of travel sort of Portland thing. But the hype is real, guys. The hype is real. It's in the Old Town, right? There's a big section of Portland that's just the Old Town. And there's all these piers. So it's on one of the piers. And the crowd kind of reminded me, I lived in Philadelphia for a number of years, just in any kind of city, just real old school crowd. Even in Chicago, if I went to Bridgeport, which is one of the kind of, I call old school sort of neighborhoods, just local crowd, older folks. So anyway, I like that. It wasn't hipster, wasn't all this young crowd, which, I'm youthful, but anyway, I like kind of older established crowd when I go hang out. And we sat at the bar, got a local beer, and got a bucket of steamers. And my friend goes, "What's steamers?" And I'm like, "What? What's steamers?" Again, it's not just Connecticut, but living in Connecticut, we'd have this all the time. They're clams, about like that size, and they're steamed, of course. And what I like about steamers, it's a whole performance when you're eating them, right? So you get this bucket, and then you get two other dishes, bowls rather. One is of a salted kind of hot water, warm water, and another is clarified butter. And what you do is you open the shell, and you take the clam out, and you have the clam, sort of like circular part, and then you have this little spout. I'll call it a spout. And it's good. It's like a handle. You could hold it. But the thing is, there's like a skin layer on it that you have to take off because you want to eat this whole thing, even that little spout. So what you do is you pinch that little handle spout and you take off that skin film. And now you have this little dangling clam on this little handle. You mix it around in the hot water, salted water, and it takes off any grime that's on it, any salt that's still on the, dirt that's on the clam, right? Because it came from the water, salt water, and there's all this kind of grime and stuff that lives in there. So anyway, you shake it off in the water, and then you put it in the clarified butter for flavor, and then you eat it. Oh my God, and it's so good. And it's just this performance. I mean, you could be talking to a friend, but really when you're eating steamers, you kind of go a little quiet because you're just opening it up, getting the skin off, eating. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So we had a bucket of those, and then we had some mussels. Two different kinds. I don't know what kind they were actually. One was so delicious. Do I remember the taste of it? Oh, I don't know. I really should record myself when I'm eating it because then I could be obviously articulate. But they were two distinct flavors. One I preferred much more than the other, although I love both of them. Delicious mussels. So that was Jay's Oyster. And then we went to Eventide, which is a hip restaurant, mostly seafood based, with Asian. That's a very general phrase, but Asian flair about it, influence with their food. So an hour wait later, we get 2 seats at the bar, all the way at the end. Perfect, because then you could just see everybody there. Had a number of martinis. My friend was leaving the next day, so it was a very celebratory evening. And we got more mussels. And the thing is, when you walk in, there's a whole ice shelf, and all their mussels are there. So it's right. That's a beautiful presentation. And all of a sudden, you walk in, and then you get overwhelmed because you see all these different kind of mussels. Not mussels. Oysters. Sorry, have I been saying mussels the whole time? If I have, every time I said mussels, I meant oysters. So we asked the bartender, just you pick the dozen that we want, right? Because I don't know one mussel. What's up, Raina? One oyster necessarily from another. And to be honest, because I get very overwhelmed when I go and eat, I love if my server could just decide for me to some extent. You decide what mussels. Oh my gosh. You decide what kind of oysters we're going to eat. And he did. And I think there were about, I don't know how many kinds there were. Maybe 4 different kinds, something like this. I'm not sure. But they all were very delicious. All very salty. All very delicious, though. But then we had the lobster roll. What I'll say is I kvetch a lot. So let me kvetch. I did not have as many lobster rolls as I wanted. I marked at least 3 places I wanted to go to, and I only had 1. Right? Maine lobsters. This is the thing. Maine lobsters. Absolutely delicious. I only sampled 1. When I was at the airport, I'm kind of speeding up. I'm going to go back to the restaurant in one moment. When I was at the airport leaving Portland, I regretted the fact that I only had 1 lobster roll. I got on my phone and I was looking at pictures of lobster rolls, just festering on the fact that I only had 1. It's just, I fester sometimes. I'll go another time. I understand, not the biggest deal in the world. But really, if you're such a food enthusiast, you want what you want. Anyway, but let me tell you, this place did not disappoint. They served it, right? They had all their kind of different cuisine takes on it. They had all their, sorry, I'm kind of flaking out. They did different ethnic influences with their lobster rolls. So instead of that hot dog bun I told you about that's shaved on the side and grilled, it was like a Korean steamed bun, long, like this. And some people would go, what the hell is that? I kind of did for a second, but I was intrigued. And, excuse me, the lobster was just marinated in a very rich, very thick brown butter marinade. So it really glazed over the lobster bits. And it was glistening, and he served it. And it's small, but those steamed buns are quite dense and filling. And they pack the lobster in. And one bite of it, and I flipped my lid. It was so delicious. The texture was so silky smooth of the lobster. Silky, silky smooth, like dense and almost creamy. Silky creamy. The texture is amazing. The flavor was just perfect. It just was a clean, fresh lobster taste. And then you had this brown butter. Need I say more? Thick brown butter sauce on top of it. It was glorious. Glorious. I loved every bite of it. I ate it nice and slow. What I will say is there was a guy sitting next to me eating one as well with a fork and knife. I judged him a little bit. Who eats a lobster roll? Even one that's a little different with a fork and knife. It's like people who eat like chicken wings with a fork and knife. Judgment. But okay, to each his own at the same time. I understand. So that's kind of it. The next day, like I said, I wanted some more lobster rolls, but I had a number of martinis, and I was not in the mood the next day for a lobster roll. But there were a couple other places I want to go to. So many places in Portland, Maine I would love to go back to. Maybe I'll go there during the winter, although I know they'll be extremely cold, but the prices will go super down, so it'll be affordable. And really, I just want to go inside to eat, so it doesn't matter if it's cold. I mean, I live in Chicago. It's cold in the winter. It's fine. Though I'm sure Portland, Maine is much colder than Chicago is. But anyway, that's my story. That's my road trip, condensed. I hope that was interesting. I know I went on and on and on. But what I hope for is to do, more food reviews that are more focused and just about one place. Because, man, I love food so much, and I love eating, and I really love sharing it. I love cooking, don't get me wrong, but really what I love to do is talk about food with people. I love looking at menus. I love getting excited about what I'm going to have. So I want to do more of this. So hopefully, I don't even know how long this video is. 27 minutes. Oh, well, anyway. Thanks for tuning in. Go feed yourself. Food review, road trip journey, Chicago, Illinois to Portland, Maine. Thanks. All right. Go feed yourself. Wow. Night.